I have a workshop coming up this fall as part of Culture Days. Culture Days is a series of events that happen across Canada, and this year I believe many of them are going to be online. I'm going to be doing an online workshop that I'm calling Pop-Up Family Portraits. It'll be free, it'll be for families, and it's on a Sunday afternoon in October. And because my calendar is wide open right now and I don't have anything else scheduled for October, I don't actually know which Sunday it's going to be on. And I've been making some samples, and I thought it would be helpful for people who sign up for the class, and maybe even for other people, if I recorded my process here. Here's sample number 1, the alien family portrait. It all started with this book of pop-ups that I made a couple of months ago, and then when I was asked to do a family workshop, I thought, hey, why not a pop-up family portrait? And I started making some samples, and this is one style that I came up with, because you can have any number of family members in this style. Today I'd like to do an example using this alien family that I drew. You can create your figures in any style that you want. The only thing that you need to make sure is that they're on fairly sturdy pieces of card, so you don't want to use paper that would be thin and floppy. And then for the background, you can use a greeting card, a piece of cardstock, and I'm using these pre-folded blank cards that I happen to have around. And you'll need 2 that are about the same size, and if they're not exactly the same size, you can always trim them. And one of them you'll fold in half, and the second one you'll fold it in half, and then you'll fold the 2 ends into the center. Now you want to be quite careful when you're doing this and line things up quite precisely so that the 2 ends get folded right into the center and there's no overlap. This will become important later on. Your figures are going to sit on that piece of card with multiple folds. You want to make sure that each of your figures will fit mostly within one of the sections on your card. You don't want them to be sitting on the fold line because it's easier to manage if you don't have to fold your figures. Now you can place your figures on a plain white card or whatever color you have, but I thought this would be fun to put this alien family on a background. I am trying out a few different examples. I've got some landscapes from a calendar, I've got a piece of gift wrap, and then I've got a map that I've pulled out of a book. But I think I'm going to work with the landscape from the calendar. I like the way that they look. They look like a family of aliens at the beach. So I'm going to take that piece and I'm making sure that it's bigger than the background that I'm working with. If it wasn't, I could make a collage and perhaps stick a few things together to make up the background, but this one is big enough, and I'm using a glue stick here to glue the background onto the card. Now I'm gluing it onto the card that just has a single fold in the middle, and I'm lining it up, and it might have been a better idea because it's a bit fiddly to line things up exactly if I had placed the background picture so that it overlapped all 4 sides of my card. But here what I'm doing is I'm just lining up on 2 corners, and there's some bits that I have to trim off the other side, but I think like I said, it would have been easier if I had lined it up and just trimmed off the excess all the way around. Now the other card that's folded in several places, that's going to be the piece that the aliens sit on, and I'm not going to use the whole card. I'm going to cut it down a bit, and again I could leave it just as it is, a plain white card, or I could draw something on it, but I have this other landscape here that I think will be kind of fun to have my aliens standing on these chunks of ice. And as you can see, if I leave this folded card whole, it's going to completely cover up my background. So I'm going to glue the piece of the paper with the ice on it to the bottom part of my card, and then I'm going to cut out the top part of the card. Now how much off this card do you want to keep? And I would say a good amount is about 1/3 the height of your whole card. Now you want about half off your figures to sit on the background so that they are securely attached and they're not going to flop around too much. This pop-up piece will sit near the bottom of your background. Oh, and another thing to point out, you would want your background to have most of the interesting bits near the top so it doesn't get covered up. And now I've switched to some other glue because my glue stick ran out. And now I'm just applying this glue. It's called Yes Paste, and I'm using a palette knife to apply it. And I'm just applying it to the bottom of the figures, the part of the figures that's going to be glued to the base. I'm making sure that I apply my figures between the folds. Where the two little guys are holding hands, that's going to end up on a fold, but that's okay. But I don't want any major part of their body to end up on the fold line. Now the next piece is to attach your figures in the pop-up to the background. I'm applying glue to one section at a time, and it's just the alien on the end and the background up to that first fold. And now I'm going to position my alien lining up with the bottom, and this is where you'll see that it comes in handy if both of your pieces of cardstock are the same size. It's a lot easier to line things up. I've put my first alien in place, and now I'm folding everything up, and I'm going to apply glue to the tab or the background that's going to fit on the other side, and then I'm going to fold the card closed, and this is really important. This is the way that you get everything lined up and properly placed. I'm folding the card closed on top of the glue, and now I'm going to make sure everything's attached in place. And then when I open it up, my pop-up card will now open and close really easily. And now I think I've decided that that corner there looks a little bare, so I am going to use my starfish and put it into that corner, and I'm going to attach it right onto the background. And now this is one thing that you can do if you've got a lot of family members or if you've got a lot of figures in your piece. Some of them can be attached to the background, and it works best if the figures in the front are shorter or smaller and they're closer to the bottom of the page, and then the figures at the back can be higher up on your page so you can see them more easily. And that's it. That's all there is to it. I hope you had fun and will make some pop-up creatures of your own.